USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins says everyone will have to reapply for SNAP benefits. She's revealed there's fraud and mismanagement in the Supplemental Food Assistance Program. The Secretary said there are 186,000 deceased people still enrolled in the program and more than 500,000 people who are enrolled twice in the program. Joining us now to discuss changes to the SNAP program is political analyst Keith Gross. Good to have you with us, Keith. First, your response to the recent developments.
Well, the revelation of massive fraud is certainly going to give adequate reason to this administration to force people to reapply, as they've given an interest in doing. So eligibility for these benefits really stems from a 2008 law, the Food and Nutrition Act, passed by Congress, but it's up to the administration to determine who qualifies and to determine the schedule on which they must requalify. So naturally, there is a strong governmental interest in preventing fraud, and recent evidence of fraud is going to prompt this administration to carry through with their current order that everyone reapply.
To that point, so there's a strong reason for the federal government to ensure there's no fraud. I've heard some commentators saying there's not as much motivation, say, for the state level authorities to ensure that, and they're the ones that do get audited around every 6 months. What do you think about this tension between the state level and federal level authorities trying to make this system work?
Well, I mean, looking at the funds flow, obviously the funds are going to flow from the federal government to the state government. And while the state government is generally the on-the-ground component where the funds are actually distributed, the federal government can go in and take a look at qualifications and verify that there's not fraud and abuse. The administration has reasonably broad administrative discretion on how to go about ensuring that the people receiving the funds are in fact qualified to receive the funds. The administration is not required to just blindly write a check to these states and allow them to distribute the assets to whomever they choose.
Now, there were recent court orders regarding SNAP and needing to go ahead and pay them out. And how does that interact with the legal authority the government has to assert that people reapply at the same time?
That's a good question. And looking at some of the recent court decisions regarding SNAP, it was more about courts telling the administration that despite the lack of congressionally allocated funding during the shutdown, the court was still ordering the administration to hand out money that was not necessarily available to hand out. That hasn't wound all the way through the court process yet, but no doubt the Supreme Court and appellate courts are going to strike down those lower court decisions that purported to dictate to the administration how to disperse funds despite the lack of a congressional allocation of those funds. There's not going to be a lot of overlap here. Here, what we're seeing is more of an analysis of eligibility. We're not having an argument where the administration asserts that the funds don't need to be distributed at all, or even to whom they must be distributed. We're seeing a proper exercise of administrative authority by the Trump administration to ensure that the people receiving the benefits are in fact qualified to receive them under the law.
And could this potentially lead to disruption or gaps in benefits for eligible families?
It could, because the way the administration appears to be pursuing this, it could create a mass reapplication. If everyone is required to reapply all at once, the massive number of applications could cause interruptions in the benefit distribution. That could give rise in court to a due process claim where the administration's actions essentially force everyone into a delay where they can't get their benefits on time. That can create a due process issue under some case law that stretches back to the 1970s, where the courts basically ruled that welfare benefits could not be taken away without a hearing.
And what procedures do you think could ensure that that kind of thing is minimized and also fraud going forward is minimized?
Well, of course, I'm not inside the administration, but I would think their counsel would be advising them to set up the reapplication demand in batches that can be processed in a reasonable period of time. You don't want to tell all 42 million people that are currently on this program that they need to reapply on the same. That's going to bog down the system and cause true chaos. But if you told a certain number that they have to reapply each day for the next many days and divided it into batches that could be reasonably processed, that would solve a lot of the problems, and it would kill the argument of any opposing party seeking to raise a due process claim in court.
Finally, is there anything missing from this particular debate on SNAP? It's been going on for some time, but especially regarding the aspect of fraud and abuse, those allegations, that those numbers have recently just come out, that you think is kind of missing from the public debate at this point in time?
The main thing I see that's missing is congressional action. We see a lot of effort from the administration to do everything within their power to limit the amount of fraud. But what I'm not seeing is congressional action to seriously change the way this program is administered and the way it is distributed. Because the number of people that have gone onto these programs just since COVID in the last, say, 5 years is dramatic. Since the Biden administration was in office, nearly twice as many people have started getting some of these benefits. And that really, it's on Congress to go through and rewrite these programs, and perhaps to go back to the way it was a long time ago when people received actual food instead of what effectively serves as a credit card now.
Well, it's great to have your insights on this today, and I'm sure there will be plenty more updates coming out soon for us all to examine the program more deeply. Really appreciate your insights. Keith Gross, thank you so much.
Thank you.